Some places don't need legends to feel wrong. A house in the Maine woods where the doors don't always stay locked. A swamp where screams appear and vanish like they were never part of this world. And a coastal town where strangers smile too perfectly, arrive too precisely, and leave nothing behind except missing pieces of your life. At first, they all look like accidents, coincidences, stories you can explain away in the light of day. But night doesn't care about explanations, because once something notices you, it doesn't always leave. Sometimes it waits, sometimes it follows, and sometimes it replaces what you thought was real before you even realize anything is missing. This happened during my final year of high school, a time when arrogance wrapped itself around me like a second skin. I wasn't cruel, not truly, just distant, especially with my family. They loved me, but I treated their presence like an inconvenience, as if I were already living a life far beyond them. My younger brother, Jake, was 10 then. 8 years separated us, enough to make us feel like creatures from different worlds. My parents always expected me to entertain him, to bridge that gap. I never did, not willingly. That summer, we traveled to the coast, as we often did, but this time it was Maine, a place of haunting beauty, dense forests whispering secrets, oceans that breathed like ancient things. As an adult, I would come to admire it, but at 18, I saw it as exile. The house we rented stood deep within the woods, isolated, almost hidden, as though it did not wish to be found. It was massive, white, with dark green shutters that seemed to watch rather than decorate. Even my father joked, "This is how horror stories begin." He didn't know how right he was. Inside, the architecture felt wrong. Hallways twisted unnaturally, intersecting in ways that defied logic. Rooms appeared where they shouldn't. The entire place felt like a labyrinth, designed not by human hands, but something older, something that understood confusion as a weapon. The heart of the house was a vast living room with a single massive window overlooking the forest. At night, that window turned into a mirror, reflecting not just us, but shadows that didn't belong. But the most unsettling detail wasn't the maze-like design. It was the door, a simple door at the end of a narrow hallway leading directly into another house, not separate, not detached, connected, like two bodies stitched together. That was where he lived. Hugh, tall, thin, always wearing a stained ancient bucket hat, as if it had fused with his identity. His teeth were yellowed, but that wasn't what unsettled me. It was his energy, loud, overly cheerful, unnaturally so, like someone forcing laughter in a place where silence should reign. He welcomed us warmly, speaking of Maine's kindness, his voice echoing strangely in the halls, as though something unseen repeated his words in a faint, distorted whisper. "My home is your home," he said. Those words lingered longer than they should have. He explained that we likely wouldn't see him during our stay, that he would remain in his side of the house, watching perhaps, waiting. We didn't like it. None of us did. But it was too late to leave. That night, as the forest outside murmured with unseen life, I couldn't shake a growing unease. It felt like the house itself was breathing, slow, deliberate, ancient, and somewhere within its walls, something else was listening. Morning arrived, but the light did little to cleanse the heaviness clinging to that house. The forest outside still felt watchful, as if dawn itself had been reluctantly allowed to exist. At breakfast, my parents announced we were going on a hike, a long one, through the woods, deeper into the unknown. I refused immediately. My excuse was simple. I didn't want to go. The truth was even simpler. I had just started talking to a girl back home, Danny, and I didn't want to lose signal. After some arguing, they gave up. They left with Jake, their voices fading into the trees, leaving me alone inside that unnatural structure. Alone, or so I believed. I sprawled across the couch, texting Danny, telling her about the house, the strange layout, the suffocating silence, the adjoining door. She didn't believe me, thought I was exaggerating, so I decided to prove it. I walked down the narrow hallway, my footsteps echoing in a way that didn't sound like my own. At the end stood the door, plain, innocent, yet it radiated something off, like a threshold not meant to be crossed. "See?" I said on FaceTime, aiming the camera at it. "This leads to his house." She laughed, didn't believe it, so I reached for the handle. It turned, unlocked, a quiet click, too soft, too easy, the kind of sound that feels like an invitation or a trap. I hesitated for a moment, then I pushed the door open. The air on the other side felt colder, thicker, as if I had stepped into a space untouched by warmth. Hugh's side of the house looked normal at first glance, a couch, a television, dim lighting. But there was something deeply unsettling about the stillness, not peaceful stillness, but a suffocating, unnatural silence, like the air itself was holding its breath. I stepped inside, whispering to Danny, showing her around, trying to act brave, trying to ignore the way my chest tightened. Then, a sound, a door closing somewhere deeper inside the house, not loud, not aggressive, just final. My blood ran cold. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Danny didn't answer. The call had started to glitch. That's when the feeling hit me, sharp and undeniable. I wasn't alone. Something or someone was in there with me. I didn't wait to confirm it. I turned and rushed back through the door, nearly slamming it behind me, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. A few minutes later, there was a knock. Slow, deliberate. I froze. Then, I opened the door slightly. Hugh stood there, smiling, but this time, something about that smile felt wrong. "Why were you recording inside my home?" he asked, his voice still cheerful, but now carrying an edge, something beneath it, something ancient, like a whisper from a forgotten place, a cursed place. I tried to lie, told him I got lost. He stared at me, too long. Then he chuckled softly. "I have cameras," he said. "I saw everything." A pause. Then he leaned in slightly, his voice dropping just enough to feel intimate. "No one locks their doors here," he added. I forced a laugh, but inside, something shifted, something dark and crawling. Because where I come from, you always lock the door, especially when something feels wrong. And in that house, everything felt wrong. After Hugh left, the silence returned, but it wasn't the same silence. It felt heavier now, as if something had shifted, as if a boundary had been broken. Danny's voice echoed in my mind. "I don't trust that guy." Neither did I. Not anymore. I locked the door immediately. Then, not trusting the lock alone, I dragged a heavy wooden chair across the floor and wedged it tightly under the handle. A crude barrier, but it felt necessary, like placing a seal against something unseen, something that might try to cross over from the other side. For a while, nothing happened. When my family returned, I told them everything. The unlocked door, Hugh's cameras, the way he spoke. But instead of concern, they were angry. Angry that I had gone into his house. They weren't wrong, but they didn't understand. There was something wrong with that place. Something they hadn't felt yet. Not long after, they decided to go out for dinner. I refused again. I wanted to stay, to prove that I wasn't afraid. But deep down, I was. When they left, the house seemed to exhale. Darkness came quickly, far too quickly. One moment the forest was visible beyond the window. The next, it was swallowed by pitch-black emptiness. No lights, no movement, just a void. Hours passed. I sat alone in the living room, texting Danny, pretending everything was normal, pretending I didn't feel the weight of the house pressing in on me. Then, a crash. Loud, violent. It came from the hallway. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I stood up instantly, my heart slamming against my ribs. The chair, that was my first thought. The chair I had used to block the door. Something had moved it. Slowly, carefully, I crept toward the hallway. Each step felt wrong, like I was walking deeper into something I couldn't escape. The darkness there was thicker, unnatural, like a veil. I reached for the light switch, clicked it on, and everything changed. The chair was on the floor, knocked over. The door still closed, but next to the fallen chair, a backpack, not mine. I stared at it, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing, because that meant only one thing. Someone had come through that door. A cold wave of dread washed over me. This wasn't Hugh. This wasn't anything normal. This felt like something far worse, something that had entered silently and now walked freely within the walls. I stayed frozen beneath that table, every muscle locked, every breath shallow, afraid that even the sound of my heartbeat might betray me. The footsteps continued, slow, measured, unhurried. Not the movements of someone searching, but of something that already knew the place, knew every corner, every shadow, every hidden zawiya within that cursed house. Then, headlights, cutting through the darkness like a blade. My father's van. Relief hit me so hard it almost made me collapse. I scrambled to my feet and ran out from the porch, waving frantically, my voice breaking as I shouted at them to stay inside the car. They didn't understand. How could they? My words came out tangled, desperate, incoherent. And then Hugh appeared. From the darkness, I nearly fell to the ground. But this time, he wasn't smiling. The strange, forced cheerfulness was gone. His face looked pale, hollow, like a man who had just seen something he could never unsee. He pulled my father aside, whispering something urgent. I tried to stop him, tried to warn my dad, but he brushed me off. Seconds later, my father turned to me. "Get in the van, now." No questions, no hesitation. We drove, fast. No one spoke until we reached a grocery store parking lot about a mile away. The engine stayed running. The silence inside the car was suffocating. Then, the truth came out. Hugh had heard the crash too. His cameras alerted him. At first, he thought it was me again, trying to get into his side of the house. But when he checked, there was nothing.
At least not at first. Just the fallen chair, the backpack. Then, movement from the hallway camera. A tall, bald man stepped out of the bedroom I had been staying in. Not my father, not me. Someone else. Someone who had been inside the house the entire time. The man picked up the backpack, then calmly walked back into the room, like he belonged there, like he had never left. Hugh said something felt deeply wrong, something beyond logic. He didn't try to enter through the connecting door. He knew that might provoke whatever was inside. Instead, he went outside, watched, waited for the right moment, for us. That's why he was there when my family returned. That's why he looked like a man haunted by something unseen, something that didn't feel entirely human. Minutes later, police cars sped past us, lights slicing through the night. Hugh called. They had chased the man into the woods, but they hadn't caught him. He told us to stay where we were, that he would gather our belongings and bring them to us. We never went back. That night, we stayed in a hotel. The next morning, we left Maine behind. But the feeling, the memory, it followed. Months later, my father contacted Hugh. They never found the man. Not a trace. Even with all the cameras surrounding the property, they couldn't figure out how he got in, or how long he had been there, or worse, if he was ever truly alone. I used to tell myself it was just a homeless man, someone looking for shelter, something explainable, something human. But sometimes, late at night, I remember those footsteps, that slow, deliberate walking, and I wonder, was it really just a man? Or was it something else entirely? Something that slipped through an unseen threshold? Something that never needed permission to enter? Something older? Something like a wandering jinn, still hiding in places we believe are safe?
The next part of this story will send shivers down your spine. Tell me, where are you listening from? How terrified are you? Comment below. If you're new, subscribe now. Every year, my family gathered for what we proudly called our perfect vacation. The kind of trip people post about. Sunlit beaches, laughter, ocean air. We stayed at my aunt and uncle's house in West Palm Beach, right along the coastline. It should have been paradise. And during the day, it was. But night has a way of revealing what sunlight tries to hide. My cousin Will lived there, same age as me. We grew up together, always close. And Teresa, my other cousin, she was more like my twin than family. Same age, same energy, even similar features. Strangers often mistook us for siblings, sometimes even twins. We used to play along. But as we got older, the games changed. Beach days turned into long nights, music, alcohol, laughter that echoed too loudly in places it shouldn't. Will knew every bar, every hidden corner of the city. He moved through the night like it belonged to him, and that night, we followed him deeper than we ever should have. It started like any other. Loud music, crowded bar, the smell of sweat and salt mixing in the air. Will drank too much, again. At first, it was funny. It always was. Until it wasn't. His voice got louder, his words sharper. He started provoking people, saying things he shouldn't, claiming that being a local gave him power. It didn't. The bouncer proved that. He threw Will out, literally, dragged him through the door and shoved him onto the pavement like he was nothing. Will laughed it off, slurring his words, his pride more damaged than his body. But something about the way he stood there, swaying slightly, eyes unfocused, felt wrong. Not just drunk, different. I told Teresa to keep an eye on him while I searched for a ride. My phone screen glowed in the darkness as I tried to book an Uber.
Everything felt normal, almost too normal, until Teresa screamed my name. I turned and saw the panic in her eyes. "He's gone!" Just like that. Vanished. We ran through the streets shouting his name. No answer, just echoes bouncing off buildings, dissolving into the humid night air. Then Teresa pointed. "I see him!" Relief hit me until I realized where he was going. Toward the swamp, or forest, or whatever that place was. A stretch of land where the city's light faded into something darker, something older. Trees twisted unnaturally, their roots rising like skeletal fingers from the mud. The air there felt heavier, almost sacred in a forbidden way, like a place whispered about in forgotten texts. Ard Mahduba, forbidden ground. We caught up to him just before he entered. Teresa grabbed him, scolding him, shaking him. He laughed like a child, unfazed. Then, suddenly, he ran, straight into the darkness, no hesitation, no fear, like something inside was calling him. And without thinking, we followed. The moment we crossed into that Makan Malhoun, that cursed place, everything changed. The air grew thick. The sounds of the city vanished instantly, replaced by something deeper, something unnatural. Our feet sunk into wet mud. Branches scraped against our skin. The deeper we went, the more it felt like we were being swallowed. And then, Will stopped, abruptly. He turned to us, put a finger to his lips. Shh. His voice wasn't drunk anymore. It was quiet, sharp, afraid. That's when we heard it. A sound, distant at first, then clearer. Screaming, not normal screaming, not human, at least not entirely. It echoed through the swamp like a ritual cry, raw, desperate, twisted, the kind of sound that doesn't just reach your ears, it digs into your bones. My blood ran cold, because deep down, I knew we weren't supposed to hear that.
The sound didn't belong to the world we knew. It rose through the swamp like something summoned, raw, broken, and filled with a kind of terror that felt ancient. Not just fear, but agony, the kind that lingers in cursed places, in lands whispered about as Mal'oon, damned. We froze, all three of us, even Will. Just seconds ago, he had been stumbling through the muds, laughing like a drunk fool, but now he was different, completely still, his eyes wide, focused, sober in a way that didn't make sense. "Don't move," he whispered. We listened, because whatever that sound was, it demanded silence. The screams echoed again, closer this time, not constant, not rhythmic, but violent bursts of desperation, as if someone was being dragged between worlds, the kind of El Salt del Mal'oon, cursed voice that doesn't belong to the living alone. I tried to locate where it was coming from, but the swamp distorted everything. The sound bounced off trees, sank into the mud, twisted through the hawa, the air itself. It could have been in front of us, or right behind us, or all around us. Teresa grabbed my arm tightly. I could feel her shaking. Not the kind of fear you can talk yourself out of, but the kind that grips your soul and refuses to let go. Will crouched down slowly. We followed. The mud soaked through our clothes as we lowered ourselves into the ard, the damp, breathing ground beneath us. None of us spoke, because deep down, we all understood something at that moment. We weren't just hearing something terrible. We were hearing something we were never meant to witness. The screams grew louder, more frantic, more inhuman. And then they stopped, just like that. No fade, no echo. Gone. The silence that followed was worse. It pressed against us,
heavy and suffocating, like the swamp itself was holding its breath, like something had just been completed, something unseen. We didn't move, not for a long time. Minutes passed, maybe more. Time didn't feel real anymore. My mind raced, trying to rationalize what we had heard. A fight? An animal? Someone in danger? But nothing fit. Nothing explained the way those screams sounded. Nothing explained the way they felt. Finally, without a word, Will stood up, and we ran. We didn't look back. Branches tore at our clothes. Mud pulled at our feet, but we kept going, driven by something primal, something ancient inside us, screaming the same warning, "Leave, now." When we finally broke through the edge of the swamp and into the faint glow of the streetlights, it felt like we had crossed back into reality. But something followed us, not physically, but in our minds, in our bones. We got into a ride and went home. No one spoke during the drive. The laughter from earlier that night felt like it belonged to different people, because the three of us who entered that swamp didn't come back the same. And even then, a question lingered in the silence. What exactly had we just heard?
Morning came, but the light felt dishonest. The sun rose over West Palm Beach like nothing had happened, bright, warm, almost mocking. The ocean sparkled, people laughed, life moved on as if the night had never existed. But for us, the echoes remained. We sat in silence for a while that morning, each of us pretending not to think about it, pretending we hadn't heard something that didn't belong to the world of the living. It was Teresa who finally spoke. "We should go back." I looked at her like she had lost her mind, but she wasn't joking. "In the daylight," she said, "it'll be different. We'll see what it really was." Will hesitated. For once, he wasn't acting reckless, but curiosity, or something deeper, pulled at all of us. And against my better judgment, we agreed. Teresa led the way. She had always been good with direction, almost unnaturally so. The deeper we walked, the more familiar everything became. The twisted trees, the damp earth, the heavy, suffocating air. And then, we found it. The exact place where we had crouched the night before. Our marks were still there, 3 impressions in the mud, like the earth itself, the ground itself had remembered us. A cold chill ran through me, because that meant one thing. We hadn't imagined it. Teresa stood still for a moment, then pointed. "That way." We followed her, deeper, off any path, through thick brush that resisted our movement like it didn't want us there. Branches scraped against our skin, leaving thin red lines, as if the macan, the place, was marking us. Then, Teresa gasped. We rushed forward. Caught on a low tree branch was a piece of denim. Just a sleeve, torn, hanging there like a warning. My stomach dropped. This wasn't random. This wasn't nature. This was human. Below it, the mud told a story. Footprints. Dozens of them, overlapping, chaotic, pressed deep into the ground like there had been a struggle. The patterns twisted around each other unnaturally, almost ritualistic, like something violent had happened, something desperate, something final. I wanted to leave, right then, but Teresa moved forward again, and we followed. A few steps later, the trees opened into a small clearing, and there it was, the rest of the jacket, still, abandoned, surrounded by more disturbed earth, more signs of movement, more evidence of something we didn't understand. The footprints circled the jacket, tight and clustered, as if multiple figures had gathered there. Then, leading away from that spot,
One set of footprints. Only one, heading deeper into the brush. And then, gone, as if whatever made them simply vanished. The air felt heavier now, thicker, like we were standing in a makan mamun, a cursed ground where something had already happened, and whatever caused it might still be watching. I felt it then, that same feeling from the night before. Not fear, not exactly. Something worse. The feeling of being seen. I turned slowly, scanning the trees. Nothing. But it didn't matter, because deep down, I knew we weren't alone.
I couldn't take it anymore. The air in that clearing felt poisoned, thick with something unseen, something that lingered long after whatever happened there had ended. My instinct screamed at me to leave, to get as far away from that makan maloon, that cursed ground, as possible. "I'm done," I said, my voice unsteady. "We need to go, now." For once, no one argued. Even Teresa, who had pushed us this far, looked shaken. And Will, usually careless, fearless, was quiet, too quiet. We turned back. Every step away from that place felt like a fight, as if the swamp itself didn't want to let us go. The branches clawed at us again. The mud clung tighter to our feet, like invisible hands trying to pull us back. But we didn't stop. We didn't look back, not once. When we finally reached the edge of the swamp, the sunlight felt unreal, like stepping out of one world and into another. The sounds of the city returned, but they felt distant, hollow. We made it back to the house, safe, or at least that's what we told ourselves. The conversation started almost immediately. "What if it was nothing?" Will said, his voice forcing calm. "Coincidence?" I snapped. "We heard screams. We saw that scene." Teresa stayed quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. "It could have been a fight or some kind of domestic situation. Maybe someone got hurt and we just found the aftermath." Her words sounded logical, almost convincing, but something inside me rejected it. Because those screams, they didn't sound like a fight. They sounded like something far worse, something primal, something that didn't belong in a normal explanation. Still, we let it go. We made a decision that day, a silent agreement. We wouldn't tell anyone, not the police, not our families, no one. And at the time, it felt like the safest choice. Will argued that if we involved law enforcement, we'd become part of something we didn't understand, that we'd be questioned, doubted, maybe even blamed. And that fear, it worked. So we buried it. We laughed later that day, tried to act normal, tried to convince ourselves that we had imagined the worst parts, that it was just a strange night. But deep down, none of us believed that. Years have passed, and still, I hear it, that scream, not in my ears, but in my memory, sharp, echoing, unnatural. Sometimes I wonder, did we witness a crime? Did someone die out there? Or was it something else entirely? Something older, something tied to places like that swamp, places whispered about in forgotten tongues as Arda Zilal, lands of shadows, places where the boundary between worlds grows thin, where something can take and vanish, leaving behind only silence and the unbearable weight of not knowing. The next part of this story will send shivers down your spine. Tell me, where are you listening from? How terrified are you? Comment below. If you're new, subscribe now. Last summer was supposed to be different.
It was the first time my girlfriend and I were traveling alone together. No family, no distractions, just us. A new step in our relationship, something meaningful. I'll call her Vanessa. She always said I was too trusting, not just kind, dangerously kind. The type of person who treats strangers like old friends, who sees warmth where there might be none. I used to think that was a strength, until that trip. We were driving down to Ocean City, Maryland, a coastal town filled with tourists, bright lights, and endless al-haraka, movement. A place where faces blur together, where strangers pass without meaning. About 20 minutes from our condo, I stopped at a gas station. Just a quick break. Fuel, drinks, nothing unusual. That's where I met him, Henry. He bumped into me by accident, or at least that's what it seemed like. He apologized immediately, almost too eagerly, his voice smooth, his smile wide. There was something about him, clean, charming. His shirt, pink and black, hung loosely, mostly unbuttoned. His eyes locked onto mine when he spoke, unblinking, intense in a way that felt deliberate. We talked for a minute or two, casual conversation. I told him we were heading to Ocean City. His reaction was instant, excited, too excited. He said he was going there too, that he and his girl were staying nearby. His energy matched mine almost perfectly, like a reflection, like he was mirroring me. It felt natural, comfortable, familiar, too familiar. He asked for my number, and without hesitation, I gave it to him. We even hugged before parting ways, a quick, friendly gesture. But as I walked back to the car, something about that interaction lingered, like a faint whisper in the back of my mind. Vanessa noticed immediately. "You made a new friend, didn't you?" I laughed and told her everything. She didn't laugh. She just looked at me, carefully, like she was seeing something I wasn't. That night we reached the condo, 5th floor, ocean view. The waves rolled endlessly under the dark sky, their rhythm steady, hypnotic. We sat on the balcony for a while, letting the sound of the ocean fill the silence. It should have felt peaceful, but for some reason, it didn't. The next morning, we went down to the beach early. The air was fresh, the sand still cool beneath our feet. For a few hours, everything felt normal again, until I heard my name. I turned, and there he was, Henry, waving at me, standing on the sand like he had been there all along. Beside him was a woman, Sarah. At least that's what he called her. But there was something wrong with her. Her face hidden behind oversized sunglasses and a wide hat. Her skin pale, unnaturally so under the sun. She wore long sleeves, leggings, as if she were avoiding the light itself. And the way she moved, slow, unnatural, like she didn't belong there, like she didn't belong anywhere. He introduced us, smiling like nothing was wrong, like this was all normal. But as Vanessa greeted them, I felt it again, that same quiet feeling, that same whisper. Something wasn't right. And deep down, I think Vanessa already knew it.
Henry didn't ask if he could stay. He simply did. He dropped down onto the sand beside us as if he had always been part of our morning, his smile fixed, his energy almost too perfectly aligned with mine. It was like looking at a distorted reflection, something familiar, but slightly off. Sarah remained standing for a moment, still, silent, watching.
There was something deeply unsettling about her stillness, as if she were observing rather than participating. Then I offered her my chair. She hesitated, just for a second too long, before slowly sitting down. She didn't thank me, didn't speak, just existed. Henry talked enough for both of them. He said they were staying in the building right next to ours. Right next to ours. The coincidence hit me like a strange thrill. But when I looked at Vanessa, there was no excitement in her eyes, only suspicion. We spent about an hour together, or rather, Henry spent an hour talking. Sarah occasionally nodded, her head tilting slightly in ways that didn't feel natural, like her movements were delayed or learned. At one point, she turned her head toward the ocean and stayed like that, too long, as if listening to something beneath the sound of the waves, something deeper, something hidden in the endless rhythm of the Bahar. Before we left, Henry insisted we all go out that night. Drinks, fun, a proper vacation night, he called it. His enthusiasm felt forced now, pressing, almost necessary. I told him we'd see, but Vanessa didn't even pretend. She was already done. Back in the condo, she turned to me immediately. There's something wrong with them. I tried to brush it off at first, but the more she spoke, the more things started to feel real. They don't fit, she said. She hates the sun but comes to the beach? No towel, no chair, nothing? And him, he's trying too hard, like he's copying you. I stayed quiet because I had noticed it too, just didn't want to admit it. That night, I stepped out onto the balcony alone, lighting a cigar I wasn't even supposed to have. The ocean stretched endlessly in front of me, dark and infinite. And then I saw her, down below, on the beach. Sarah, alone, same clothes, same stillness. She wasn't facing the building. She was facing the ocean, completely motionless, like she was waiting or listening. A cold unease settled over me. Something about the way she stood there didn't feel human. It felt ritualistic, like she was part of something ancient, something tied to the water, to the unseen, a presence, a whisper, something like a silent jinn drawn to the edge of worlds. I went back inside, locked the balcony door, tried to ignore it, but later, as I walked toward the main door to check the lock, I heard it, murmuring right outside, low, incoherent, like two voices overlapping, or one voice struggling to form words. I stepped closer. The handle moved, slowly, like someone was trying to open it. My heart skipped, but instead of panicking, I spoke. Hey, wrong room. Silence. Then footsteps, quick, retreating, gone. I stood there staring at the door, a strange thought creeping into my mind. What if it wasn't the wrong room? What if they knew exactly where we were?
The next day should have ended whatever unease we were feeling. It didn't. If anything, it grew stronger, like something unseen had settled into the edges of our trip, refusing to leave. Henry and Sarah appeared again on the beach that morning. Same timing, same silence from her, same overly bright energy from him. And again, it felt like they hadn't simply arrived, but emerged, as if the ocean itself had delivered them to us. They wore the same clothes as before, no change, no sign of a normal stay. Vanessa noticed it immediately. "I'm done with them," she said quietly. I didn't argue this time. Something in me agreed. We left the beach early, using the excuse of dinner plans. Henry tried to push again, his voice slightly more urgent this time, his smile a fraction too wide. "We can meet later, right?" I told him maybe. That was a mistake, because on the walk back to the condo, his calls started.
one after another, persistent, almost rhythmic. When I didn't answer, he texted instead, then called again. Vanessa finally snapped. "Just tell him we're sleeping." I texted him we were heading back and going to bed early. That's when everything changed. The reply came instantly. "Don't go to your room yet." We stopped walking, right there in the dim streetlight glow of Ocean City, surrounded by distant laughter and traffic. We just stood still, reading the message again and again. Vanessa's face tightened. "Delete it," she said, but I didn't, because something about it didn't feel like a joke anymore. It felt like a warning or a command. We made our way back anyway, slowly, carefully, every step heavier than the last. When we reached the condo hallway, the door was slightly open, not wide, just enough, a small gap, like someone had been inside and left it that way on purpose. My stomach dropped. I know I locked it. I know I did. Vanessa didn't enter. She stayed outside, breathing shallow, her hand gripping the wall. I stepped inside alone. The room looked normal at first. Too normal. That was the problem. Then I saw it. The balcony door, open. The air felt wrong, like the room had been exposed to something it wasn't meant to contain. I moved toward the bedroom and stopped. Both suitcases, ransacked. Not stolen, not random. Searched, deliberately. And then I saw what was missing. My Jordans, Vanessa's bathing suit, and a printed photo of us. Just those three things, nothing else. Not money, not electronics, just personal pieces, like someone was collecting identity. We called the police immediately, told them everything, Henry and Sarah, the messages, the break-in. But when they checked the system, there was no Henry registered in any nearby condo, not Sarah either, not in any building, not anywhere. The phone number? Disconnected, as if it had never existed. The officers gave us a calm explanation. Tourist theft happens sometimes, they said. People move through places like Ocean City looking for easy targets. But nothing about this felt easy or random, because I kept thinking about one thing, the photo. Why take the photo? Why take us? It wasn't about theft. It felt like something else, something quieter, more intentional, like we had been seen, not as people, but as something to be studied or remembered. And somewhere far beyond the noise of the city, I couldn't shake the feeling that Henry and Sarah were never really strangers, just something wearing human shape until it was time to disappear again.
We left Ocean City the next morning, not slowly, not carefully, quickly, like something invisible was still behind us, waiting for us to hesitate just long enough to return. The drive felt unreal. The coastline blurred past the window, but none of it registered. Even Vanessa was unusually quiet. Ever so often, I'd catch her looking at me like she wanted to say something but didn't. Because what do you even say after something like that? That night in the condo kept repeating in my head. The open door, the ransacked bags, the missing photo. It wasn't the value of what was taken that bothered me. It was the selection. Intentional, precise, personal. Like someone was collecting pieces of us. When the police finished their report, they told us the same thing again. There was no Henry, no Sarah, no records, no hotel check-ins, no matching IDs, nothing. Ocean City was full of tourists. People came and left every day. But these two, they had no trail, like they had stepped into the world for a short time and erased themselves afterward. Weeks passed, but Vanessa never let it go. She would sometimes pause mid-conversation and say, "What if they weren't even real people?" At first, I thought she was just shaking, but then I started thinking the same thing, because there were too many details that didn't add up. The identical outfits, the perfect timing, the way they always appeared exactly when we did. And Sarah, always silent, always watching, like something observing through a borrowed body. Sometimes, late at night, I would remember the balcony, her standing there, facing the ocean, not moving, as if waiting for something beneath the waves, something ancient, something that doesn't belong to this side of reality, something like a hidden presence in the darkness of the sea, a being whispered about in old warnings, half myth, half fear, not human, not alive in any normal sense, just existing. Henry's last message still sits in my phone, saved without reason. Don't go to your room yet. I used to think it was a threat. Now I don't know what it was. A warning? A slip? Or something trying, imperfectly, to sound human? We never saw him again, but I stopped believing that means they were gone. Because sometimes, when I meet strangers now, I catch myself noticing small things. Too much friendliness, too perfect timing, too familiar a smile. And every time I do, a quiet thought returns. Maybe Henry and Sarah weren't trying to rob us. Maybe they were never real tourists at all. Maybe they were something that only appears briefly in crowded places, to watch, to take, and then vanish back into whatever place they came from, leaving only one question behind. If they were never really there, then what exactly walked into our room that night?
Tonight's story ends here, but the mystery is far from over. As midnight approaches, fear awakens. Follow us now for more spine-tingling horrors, if you can handle it.